Going once, going twice, sold! You're listening to The Property Pod.
Welcome. We're back with the Property Pod. Here we are, guys. I'm here with my main team. I've got J-Mac from First National Real Estate. How you doing, J-Mac?
Hey! Yeah, really good.
We are in a silly mood today.
We sure are. That's the voice of Paddy Berry over there. He's 414 Real Estate's representative. I just feel like you've come back from Vegas and you're in the capital of boxing and UFC fighting, and I was like, maybe we could have like a grudge match of you two against each other today. Did you get in?
Do you have like a ding bell sound on that thing?
good.
I get no.
Hello.
All right.
It's on.
So how you feeling? How was your trip over to the big country?
Tiring.
Tiring?
Yeah.
You're,
It was pretty intense.
Your schedule just looked intense. Looking at it, I was looking while you were away, and your Google Calendar was just off the chart.
It was pretty packed, but you're not going to go all that way and just sit around and do nothing.
No,
so
very true.
We're there for a purpose, and that was to go talk to people and learn. So yeah,
You feel like you got a lot out of it?
Oh well, I think so.
Yeah, it was fun talking to you from while you were over there.
Yeah, when I've got time to figure it all out and unload my brain, yeah, I'm sure we'll have some great topics for the show in the coming weeks.
Well, yeah, there'll be plenty of new marketing stuff for me to get up to. And speaking of marketing, we're going to follow up on what we discussed. Was it 2 weeks back, 3 weeks back, few weeks back?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to follow up on that. It's kind of like a sequel episode where we'll Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So it's like a sequel episode.
Hear it.
Did you know I was doing a podcast with Pat's son the other day? We've started up one since he's
Yeah.
been in the
Oh, they're cool little parker,
since he's been on school holidays, and he's easier to work with than you two.
That's because he just goes, yep,
yeah.
Oh,
yep,
have you listened to them in the car once or twice?
couple times.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty much you with him on the side.
Yeah.
Hey, we're getting there.
Back on track.
All right. It's pretty much a sequel to one we did a few weeks back where we were talking about why marketing is important and why you should actually use the services of a real estate agent. And we've had pretty good feedback from that. We've had a few emails that come in. We said at the end we'd continue it. And John 2.0 is still kicking about. We've had him for about a month now, I think.
Well, I think in that last time we didn't really go, I suppose, in the services of a real estate agent, but we're more so helping people understand why marketing is important
And why they should invest the money.
Yeah, yep, and realistically, what some expectations on a fair cost should be.
Yep.
So today was then more so. Why don't we look at what exactly they are and where what those opportunities are, where the avenues are, where to invest,
What you should spend your money on effectively.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
So we sort of framed it in a couple of ways. First, we're going to cover off what kind of buyer it is and why you're using these particular methods in order to target, where they are in their cycle. So we talk about active and passive. Are they local, out of area, and then all the different types and which way to attract those people.
Yep. So we'll break that down first, and then post that we'll go into a bit of stuff about kind of the sources,
How they work and why we use them for different style demographics.
Gil?
Yeah, yep.
That's
Let's
fun.
do it.
Let's do it.
414 Real Estate has been operating within the northern suburbs of Hobart since 2006. With their innovative approach to marketing and managing your property, they have all your property needs covered. Find out more by visiting them today at 414.com.au.
All right, types of buyers.
So the first one I look at, I frame it as, are they active or are they passively looking?
So does that mean do they go to the gym or do they sit on their ass, or is that something different?
I'll use that.
Or does it mean John 2.0 versus John 1.0?
John stayed at the top. That's what
Hey, Parker was in yesterday asking whether, Dad, can we do gym stuff tonight?
Oh, I hope so. We're going to have some dumbbells just sitting out the back shortly. No, that's not going to happen.
I feel like I'll get here and I'll be sitting here being a passive
just
host.
sitting there, just
and you guys
pumping
will
iron while you...
pumping iron. All right, sorry. Sidetrack.
Yeah,
Hit us with-
right. So it's pretty simple in some respects. So active is, imagine a person wants to buy within the next 30 days. They're going to look at anything they can possibly get their hands at to try and find a property. And we've had people like knock on doors. You're looking online, you're looking in the paper, you're asking your mates, anything you can anything they can do because they want to buy today.
So you either want to buy or you have a need to buy. You're in that place where I need a new place or I'm being evicted.
It's like once you've made that decision that it's go time, and then it's 100% full steam ahead.
Kind of like when we were speaking with Leggett the other day, we asked if people are nervous to give up their details, and he said, no, normally when they come to me, it's go time. Like they've hit the button.
Boom.
They've got their pre-approval, and then let's go.
So they're the active buyers.
Yep.
So then when you think of passive, it's that, well, imagine, I know, Aaron, you're looking to buy a house potentially, but you might not be active. So, but you'll be flipping, you might flip through the real estate guide, for example. Oh, look at that, that's overpriced. Oh, that's interesting, that's up the road. Then all of a sudden you go, oh, Auntie Jane, that's a house she's thinking about looking at a house for that one. I might go tell her about it. It might trigger an idea to move, or you might always be looking for an investment property, but you're never actively looking. But then all of a sudden someone tells you about a property and you're like, oh yeah, that might suit me. I'll go have a look.
So I think what you're saying, John, to a degree with marketing, sometimes marketing can help a passive buyer turn into an active buyer.
Absolutely, especially if there's an opportunity there for them.
So another reason why marketing can be really good, because if we're not using marketing to promote properties and we're only using databases, then the potential buyer that's prepared to pay top dollar may not be on a database, so they'll never find out about that dream home.
Yeah, and I'll give you a very interesting scenario of a couple that moved in the same suburb. They had a house in Travis Court and Austin's Ferry, and from their advice, they went, we are never, ever moving again. And then
full stop, never moving.
Never moving, and we're done. Because they'd moved a dozen times, so they're over it. And then there was a house we had listed in Govett Rise in Austin's Ferry, and we did a full big, real big campaign on this one. They always, like most people do, in that case, they picked up the real estate guide, they're flipping through, and she looked at this house, went, oh, I like that. And then she jumped on the net. Oh, I really like this. And then she's watched the video, said, I want this. I need this house. So then she's shown her husband, and then he's looked at it, felt the exact same way.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Again.
So then you've got, never had no intention of moving. Then all of a sudden they needed to sell their house to buy this one just to get into it. So in a very
she
short...
was just flicking through the guide just out of interest.
Just
really.
out of because it came with the Mercury. Yep. And then all of a sudden they shift from never wanting to move again to needing to move yesterday.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like a real quick transition of using different mediums in order that just triggered her to switch from never moving again to actually needing to move. So whereas she wasn't one that was, passively looking on the internet. It was just by chance the real estate guide fell under her nose. And that was a difference between being a passive buyer moving to an active buyer.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I guess it sounds similar to my auntie. Her partner will sit on the computer all the time, and she was, I saw your photos the other day. And I'll be like, oh, you guys looking to buy? No, I just like looking.
Yeah.
And I guess you hit that aha moment, and you're like, that one actually looks really good. And then you go from this passive, as you say, to active.
And that's where the next stage is then, are the buyers local or out of area? So quite simply, are they within, let's say just a 5 kilometre radius of where the house is, or are they interstate? So, I mean, your local real estate guide isn't going to be able to find people at the other side of Australia, for example. So then you just use...
Why our Mercury article went all the way to Queensland?
Well, I mean, that's because it's the property pod. So then, but again, are you using different mediums in order to attract people to different regions?
And then this is again when this is the callback to Simon from Propertyology's episode where he was discussing that you're probably silly just to look in your area if you're buying for investment purposes. If you want to buy for a place to live, okay, but he was basically saying broaden your spectrum and look elsewhere or look outwards.
If you're looking for an investment, but in this case, we're really just, I suppose, breaking it down about what marketing medium you need to use in order to attract the people that are active in their cycle, the passive in their cycle, and do they live locally or do they live out of area? Yep. So broken up to those 4 components, each medium's going to have a different strength based on those 4 categories.
And I know you were talking the other day, Pat, about targeted marketing. I guess that in-area, out-of-area kind of stuff. You can target an ad based on a kilometre reach or a certain circumference of an area.
Yeah, so there's different mediums that we can now utilise to market properties, and one of those is target marketing. Excuse me. So the idea is a bit like if you've looked at a holiday online on, like Virgin's website or something, then all of a sudden when you're on different websites, that ad follows you around saying, hey, come to Fiji, you want to. Like, just continually chases you.
It's programmatic marketing, I think it's called, isn't it? Something like that.
Oh, that's a cool word.
Well, that sounds more fancy than target marketing, but sure. But yeah, we can now basically design ads that do the same thing for property. So if you've looked at a property in a suburb in a price range, then we can now use that data that you've clicked on to then push other properties out to you.
To gauge your interest and see whether that's something you're chasing.
Yeah, yeah. So we'd looked on there to say, there was one I forgot actually, but in the show notes, which you both have this time, okay? So there's no hidden show notes.
No, I've got mine right in front of me. We actually had to email them all around to each other.
Well,
But at least we've gone paperless.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. So we said 7 potential sources of inquiry. So I'll read them all out and then we'll just get stuck into them. So we thought, coming from the top below, there was internet, so you're using real estate portals or direct agent websites, for example. Print media, so newspapers or magazines. That can range from even in-flight magazines on an aeroplane where they'll do big developments. So I said agents, the agents network. So you've heard Pat's mention the database. It's really a contact list of active people that we know to speak with. Brochures and letters, or mailbox drops. So you've got an open home, you've got your brochure, or you'll actually send out letters to people's addresses local to the area. The signboard, I call it the 24-hour salesperson. So that's, you drive past the house, you've got your signboard. Word of mouth, so telling your friends about it, telling everyone.
Yep.
Social media platforms, and I think so that's obviously Facebook and Instagram and all as well. But the last one that
what was that one? Instagram.
Damn it!
I use Instagram all the time.
I knew that wasn't going to slide. But then the other one I thought, which
Spam chat?
which we're all, the last one that we are all passionate about too, I should have added, which was video marketing. I think that needed a category of its own. So they're the sort of the 8 sources that probably we could sort of flesh out. That then again, are you looking for an active or a passive or a local about an area? And they all can come into play in their own different ways.
Cool. Well, maybe I'll swing us off to an ad. We'll get some advertising in. And speaking of advertising,
yeah,
we'll get that in and then we'll come back to your little list there.
Cool.
All right.
As a family-run business, First National Real Estate McGregor understands that the property market can be stressful. However, with a strong team in both sales and rentals, we are here to guide you through the property maze. Find out more today at mcgregorfm.com.
You asked me just before we got started, Aaron, could we talk about sort of the past, present and future of where, the advertising's gone? So I think we might be able to phrase that actually in the way we start off with first one, which everyone would identify of selling a house with, which is your signboard.
Yeah, well, I guess that was where I was starting. I was looking at your list. I thought it's quite interesting. Some of these things didn't even exist when you guys started the internet was just a baby when we were just a baby. But now it's kind of everywhere.
Yeah. Yep.
So I was looking at it, signboard, some of the print media, like a magazine, like some young kids be like, what's a magazine?
Yeah.
I only listen to e-blogs on spam chat.
Instagram. Well, you think of I always think that the signboard is like the 24-hour salesperson. Just, once it goes up, they're working there 24/7, until the property's sold. I think we can all understand why that's important, is that some clients will say, look, I just don't want a signboard. And, I'll always, because they'll say that, I don't want people to know that my house is on the market. Well, then we'll ask the question again, look, if someone's going to drive past this street knowing that there's a house in the street for sale, what's the first thing they're going to look for? The signboard.
Yeah.
So
I think that's the point of the signboard, is the identifier.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, it doesn't really matter if it's a standard little sign or it's one that's 3 city blocks long. Which some of them seem to be these days.
Man, I went down a street the other day. I don't know if sign envy's a thing, but I went past one of the places I'd shot and I saw your sign or Martin's sign or someone from our agency's sign.
Yeah.
And then maybe 3 houses down was another signboard, and it was probably bigger than the front facade of the house. Like you had to actually sneak past.
Yeah, I think they had a photo on the board of the front of the house because you couldn't see the front of the house
as well. Yeah, I just thought that was really strange. I was like, it's kind of like they were blocking the view of the house. But look, that's a whole other thing.
But the agent, you can see them. They were life size. Like John talks about the 24-hour sales. I think the agent was actually bigger on the board than he is in real life.
His eyes removing as you walk past.
Imagine if it had like a little recorded message on it that you could press and be like, oh, wait, look, it's not the worst idea.
Yeah, there you go.
Like you could walk by and it'd be like, oh, I've got it.
Well,
a little television screen or iPad in the sign, and when you walk by, you press it and the video marketing plays.
Well, just so you know, there was our office many years ago. Was before I started, but Dad was telling me they got sold on the idea where you could leave a voicemail at the window display, so you could, and then he said all the cards had like a number, and he said I think it was removed in a week.
Because people
were
were
just walking past,
going.
it was a great idea in theory, but
so the voicemail was on the actual sign itself, or at the front door?
At the front door of the office. So it's just so you'd push the button, and of course all the window cards would have like a number. But of course, honest, no one inquired about property.
Oh, I thought you were talking about it being at the property for sale, and then I'm like, what? So we've got creepers walking right up to the front door of someone's house, like.
Yeah, just come on, go let me in.
Yeah, that's some in-depth pranking.
Well, I mean, those signboards, in our REIT actually has rules on what you can and can't do with the signboard. So I think some of the giant ones that if they're trying it, there's just, the whole reason why the REIT's got rules on it is to actually step in before the council steps in and legislates it. So, one of the rules, for example, is you can't have more than 2 real estate agent signboards on there. If a owner's doing an open listing, for example, whereas you can go to other states and there's like 5 or 6 different agent signs on there. It just looks ridiculous. So,
in like there's no sole agency agreement. They're just 5 different agents are trying to sell it.
Yep.
It's potluck.
Yeah. So, but the REITs, and it's, again, they're trying to think 2 steps ahead. Make sure that we've got, our agents work reasonably, so that the council doesn't have to step in and say, mate, please remove a 10 by 10 metre signboard from a.
Funny you bring up councils. Traveling around the different places in the world, when I was in Miami a few years back, we were on this tour and they were talking about the for sale signs in this particular suburb. The council had stood in and taken over.
Oh, right.
And I know people probably can imagine an American real estate sign. It's the wooden post and then the little bit comes out and the board's hanging, so it sort of flaps in the wind a little bit. It says for sale on it. Well, they'd actually put a limit on the size in this particular suburb the council has, and it was literally the size of a postcard.
Well, that's how big the flap's allowed to be.
I've got a photo of it. I'll give it to Aaron for his good old show notes because he loves the show note special. It was so tiny. Like, the guy on the tour was like, and to the right, you'll see the house is for sale. And I'm like, where? And it's like the smallest board you've ever seen.
Just impossible, yeah.
So, it's good that obviously we try to keep it fair for everyone so that council doesn't step in and take over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we're probably getting a bit off topic, just talking forever about signboards. We should move back.
Anyway, so in that instance, they're both active and passive buyers that are local.
Yes,
so that's
okay, that totally makes sense.
So the next one we could jump into would be print media. So that would be the next evolution. Before we've got really fancy with all the bigger photos and colours and photos. We talked about once before that was just a little classified ad, $50, $100, but now you can spend. I know it's like thousands of dollars just to get a full page. So, in that, then you can still you can choose any print media you want. So, realistically, most of your attention is going to be drawn from the local real estate guide in your area. In our case, it's the Mercury. What did we say before? They had sketch artists before the photos came along. Yeah,
talking about how big you can go with ads in the newspaper as well, John. A few years ago, did you ever see when I think it was the Brisbane newspaper or the Gold Coast Sun or whatever it was, someone actually paid for the full front of the newspaper, back and front, to be wrapped in a property he had for sale.
Can you imagine?
I just don't even know what that costs. So it was like,
I don't wanna know.
So the newspaper had like 2 front covers. It was the name of the newspaper at the top, and then the property was on the front and back, and then you turned it over, and then there was the traditional front page of the newspaper.
Well, hey,
I guess the agent obviously thought that was the best plan of attack for that.
But that's a great example of trying to find that passive buyer and make sure they know that this prestige, amazing place that they never knew they wanted to buy was available for sale.
Or you've been waiting 20 years for that property to come up, and there it is. Yeah. So, well, then, okay, there you go. So then the other thing then is, print media would normally be associated with locals.
Sure. Yeah.
Unless passive and active. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you're getting it mailed to you from a cousin somewhere or something like that.
So with more, so you could think of, I'll save you, mate.
Thank you.
I was letting him sing.
But if next time you go on the plane, more often than not, you will find some large international development being broadcast in an aeroplane magazine. Because generally speaking, you'd probably find they're looking for passive, affluent people who are looking to invest somewhere.
I was just on a plane last week, John. There was no ad.
Well, there you go. Maybe it's less common.
You weren't in the right section. There were different magazines at the front.
Oh, sorry. I forgot John goes first class.
Back in cattle class, they just show us what movies we're going to watch. And hope to keep us not rowdy.
I was getting ads for McDonald's 10 nuggets. John's getting affluent properties around the world.
Are you thinking of moving to Bora Bora?
Yes. So there you go. So signboards, print media. The next one then you could say would be straight up word of mouth. I mean, that's self-explanatory.
I guess word of mouth, again, is similar to the signboard being on the street. Like I could walk my dog, see a sign like yesterday. I walked a dog 2 streets over from where I live. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That place is up for sale. I might have a look online now because I've seen it. Or I'll tell somebody that I know is looking.
Yep.
And then, so you've seen the sideboard and then you're going to word of mouth it to your passive buyers.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Or active buyers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, generally you'd always say that again, like this seems silly to go back to active, but I mean, active is looking at everything. But you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
I'm just thinking out loud. It wasn't necessary to say. Sorry, people. But yeah, so you're exactly right. And then look, I mean, word of mouth's been around forever, and it doesn't cost you anything. Just aside from, hey, did you see that place? You know. So the next one that would expand on that, then we talk about an agents network. So we've talked before about a database, and that's about just an agent would, generally speaking, have access to a lot more people because they're working with a lot of people on a daily basis. And so with that, then, is that once they know the property's for sale, they can reach out to all those people, phone calls, text messages, emails, you name it, just to say, hey, you looked at this one's come up similar, come and check it out.
And I think the database is probably the real value when you hire an agent to sell a property on your behalf versus doing it yourself. When you're trying to sell a property yourself, sure, you can use all these marketing material, but you're dealing with one person at a time.
Yep.
A lot of agents will show somebody one house, and then through conversations with them, they're like, oh no, this is the one you're actually after.
Yep.
And we'll direct them to where the one they end up buying is. So that's where we get a little bit more of an advantage to help sell properties, is because we are dealing with buyers on a daily basis. We're learning their needs, their wants, their desires, whatever they're after, and we're starting to match them with it. But we do it in conjunction with marketing so that the two of them work together to sort of help the process
Absolutely.
and get the sale to the best possible outcome for the owner.
And over that time, we're building trust with that client too. So you could be working with a buyer for 6 months before you find them the right house, and by that stage, like they're ready to rock and roll, and they are going to be the best buyer for that property. Well, to give you an example of one we had up in Collinsvale, locally, the client came to us with a house that was half finished, and he now lived in Queensland. His family, he'd been building that house for nearly 20 years and never finished it. But he didn't want to advertise. He didn't want to use signboard. He didn't want to use anything. He didn't want anything.
Yep.
He wanted $250 for it, something for it. So he came to us and said, "Have you got someone?" As it turned out, we'd sold a house in Molesworth about 6 months before. We did have a buyer that we'd been trying to, they'd been staying in touch with that whole time. He just wanted a place to retreat to. He wanted something cheap because he had no more than $300,000. That's all he had.
Yep.
And he didn't care sort of what condition it was because it was going to be a retreat for him anyway. So in that time, in that moment, luckily enough, we were the right people to call because we just had that one guy who wasn't actively looking. He was just, if the thing came up, it would. So then we're able to match that house, those two clients together to sell that property, in the same day for like $285.
Yep.
So that's a classic case then of using an agent's contacts to try and help. In that case, we were completely limited on the resources we could use. It was just lucky that we had that person at that time.
So this is going to sound silly. I'm often the guy with the silly questions, but agents network database, how do you become a database member, or how do you get onto a database?
Oh, I'm getting the go. John's giving me the heads up on this one. He's like,
well, I don't want to hog the mic all the time.
oh, I thought you were deer in headlights.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty easy. Obviously, we meet people at different ways, through open homes, through conversations on the phone, down the local coffee shop. And we basically start talking to people, and because they know we're in real estate, they give us information and we use that to put it in the database. You can also get on it via most agents' websites. They normally have a form field that you can complete.
Yep.
But I tend to find that when I'm working my database, it's people I know and people that I've been dealing with on other properties. So a database sort of organically grows just through connections you make as you sort of work through that.
So you're a brand new agent, say you've just come into the game, you don't have that resource at your disposal, you're kind of reaching out to people that you do know, but the longer that you're in the game,
the bigger easier it gets.
Database will become, and you'll earn that trust and that
so,
personal relationship.
To give you an idea, in my business, whenever I'm bringing a new agent on board, I've got a pretty good database of buyers that I work with. If I've got a new agent coming in, I'll take them for the first couple of weekends to my open homes with me and get them to work my open homes with me. And
I'll build that rapport with
and
the
I'll
people
let
that
them,
are coming through.
Yeah, so the people that come through, I'll move them onto the new agent, and that becomes their start. So it's a way of them getting a few people that they can just start building trust with, talking to, working with.
Yeah.
And from there, we normally find that they do a pretty good job and can grow that database from that small bit.
So based on what I've kind of gathered from what we've been talking about today, the people in your database can be both, in John's terms, this active and passive. So you could have those active buyers who are looking for everything, and you're like, sweet, I know John Smith is going to love this one. Boom, 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 hit him up, get it. Or you could have passive people who are just like, I just want to be kept in the loop.
So I've got two in there at the moment that are investors that have rentals with us. They've told me in the last week that they want to buy something in the next 12 months. Can we just let them know when good rental opportunities come up? So in our system, we can tag properties with different tags, and then that can automatically link it to these people. So we have a tag in there that is about rentals.
Yep.
So we know that, all right, this property is perfect for investors, so we'll tag it with the investor tag, and then that will then send it out to these two people that I've got sitting there. So basically, they're ready to buy in the next 12 months. They just don't know what they want to buy, when they want to buy, but if the right opportunity comes along, they'll jump on it. So that's a great example, I guess, of how we can use a database for what is a passive buyer that will be active at some point. We just don't know when. So they just want to be told about opportunities that arise, and then they'll find it from there.
All right. So I just want to play devil's advocate on this one just really quickly.
No. Okay.
What if you're in the database, are you getting spammed with heaps of emails every day that you don't want to be getting?
Look, it depends how – I can't really answer that correctly because every agency has different protocol systems, how they work, how much they send out.
Yep.
The only thing I can really advise is that to comply with spam legislation in Australia, you need to have an unsubscribe feature in the email at somewhere.
So if you don't want it, you can just click don't.
At the bottom of our emails, we have that in ours. It is actually broken up into multiple categories, so they can potentially unsubscribe from our monthly newsletter, but stay subscribed to our investor portfolio or stay subscribed to our property alerts, or they can tweak. If we're sending them too many properties, they can either let us know and we can tweak their requirements so they don't get as many sent through. So originally they might have said, oh, look at anything up to 300,000 when we start sending them stuff, and then they come back to us and say, you know what, those things at 150, I'm not touching those, and start me at 250. So
change the parameters of what's going on.
I think people only get concerned about spam if they don't have the rapport or the trust with the person that's sending them material. So if they have learnt that we are trying to help them and we're in constant conversation with them, they won't care if I'm sending them 100 emails a month.
Because
if
they, in theory, should be
happy to be hearing from me.
And should be, because they trust what you're saying, they're like, oh, Pat wouldn't be sending this through. Or it wouldn't be coming from him. Yeah,
so I have a lot of automatic systems set up in my database, but I also am in touch with a lot of my clients, so they're not worried about how much they get through. And the option's there to always unsubscribe if they need to. And then it normally follows with me just touching base with them. Quite often it's normally because they've found a property already with another agency. Great, we'll update you, take you off the database, have a bit of a conversation with them and move on from there. So yes, can be seen as spam, but I think it's an individual agency and the agent themselves.
Yep.
Yeah, and look, I suppose that's the concern, isn't it? They're going to leave the details with the salesperson. They're going to be calling him every 50 minutes. And it's just, if it's that 1 in 1,000, if you just strike it unlucky with a person who's just got nothing else to do but hound you, well, more often than not, we're all reasonable people just wanting to provide a good service. So most of those fears would be unfounded.
Yeah, and look, for me, if I'm chasing somebody and I've called them multiple times, if you just call me back and say I'm done, then I'll stop calling. I think the biggest problem is someone will I'll show them a house and they say, I absolutely love this place. I'm going to go away and talk about finance. I'll come back to you. And then they turn into this ghost.
You hear that
I work for the vendor at the end of the day. So my obligation, you've told me you want to buy the house because you love it. Of course I'm going to keep calling you.
Please let me help you buy the house.
If something has changed and you no longer wish to buy that, just send me a text message. Yep. Send me an email. Leave me a voicemail back and just say, hey, thanks for calling me, Patrick, but I no longer am interested in that property. And that'll be the end of it. But while ever you keep avoiding my call, I'm going to keep calling because you've told me you want to buy the property. So a little tip there, I guess, for people if they're a little bit...
I guess there we just broached into internet without even really meaning to. But then John brought up an interesting thing with the phone. So in the past, was the database kind of something that would be phone based? Like say,
they used to have it on those 3x5 cards. So the teledecks. So to be categorised by you could have it's broken down the same way, but just on little flip cards where the person's name on it, their number, what they're after, last time you called, and details. And
or if you like our rep Marty in this office, and I'm sure he's listening over in America at the moment, he has a pad, and it's literally just one page of active buyers, and he just goes through it. We have the most amazing technology in the world, but you've got to work with what works for you. And for Marty, it's a beautiful pad that he loves to death.
The biggest thing we're talking about is reaching back out to people, because no matter what technologies you use, it's all about just connecting with that individual and what they need. So the same principles existed forever, but just the mediums in which you can use it have changed. Now you can click on a button, it brings them all up. Once before, you had to flip through cards or use a pad, and it doesn't really matter, provided that the person you're working with is consistent. It doesn't matter which system they use.
Cool.
So then I suppose the next one would be, the next evolution. We've covered, signboard, word of mouth, print media. So now we're really the agents network. Now we really want to talk about what the big beast now is, which is the internet.
Hurrah! Pat's little baby.
Yeah, but I mean that's pretty. I think no matter it's very few people now that wouldn't be using the major portals to find a property, and that's because 99% of people will be advertising their property on the real estate portal. So that's going to be 9 times out of 10. If you don't know anyone, it's going to be your best place to start.
And I refuse to believe that people don't have access to the internet these days or an email address. Look at your Nan; she's Candy Crushing it on her iPad.
Nan is constantly Candy Crushing it and
So-
sending me live requests every day. Can you send lives to your Nan? I'm like, no, I don't want to, Nan. Stop spamming me. I want off your Candy Crush database.
Just pay the money on the website, so I don't have to get spammed.
We don't want to send it down that road. It's dangerous.
When you talk about that, like nobody out there now can't access technology. It's like the internet.
That's why I said 99%. Now, one of the exciting things about the internet now is that you can actually get reports back on how effective that marketing is, and that's where things really changed, because in all the other means before, there wasn't a really easy way aside from hopefully getting a phone call back. But now people can be, this is with the active and the passive, where you might not get an inquiry on a property for a week, but all of a sudden you've had 900 views on that property in that same period of time. So it's giving you information that you can actually work back to as a seller to be able to figure out what you're doing. Is it working effectively or not?
And that's probably why I use digital more than I do traditional marketing, I guess, John, is because I'm a massive stat fan. Like analytics, stats, that type of stuff is me. So everything being measurable, because I don't want to spend a client's money unless I can show to them that it worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where I think digital, and like you talk about, the reports and the analytics and the reviews and bits and pieces that come back, it really helps paint a picture of what's happening with the house and where people are at and what they're thinking with it.
Yeah, and look, I know I had a bit of a whinge about the cost of marketing when we talked about it previously, but in the end, if you think about it as a cost per lead and the time that you actually get at the value of that, so you can have an ad on the real estate websites for 6 months, and so your cost per day goes down. You could have hundreds of inquiries, and the cost of that lead, dramatically reduces. Whereas if you use a print form, that's only going to last you that week or the couple of days that it's there, and it's gone.
And then it's not measurable about where the reach has come from because it's out there in the wide world. But now you have access to being like, I know most of my inquiries are coming through the spam chat.
Yep. So
I'm going to do heaps of spam chatting.
Well, another thing too, I can't remember where I heard this advice from, but buyers will often spend 6 months researching before they even contact a real estate agent.
Yeah, so that's pretty fair.
They'll go, like, they're thinking about moving, and so they'll just spend time looking at areas, and they'll start their searches from, like, let's just say it was 0 to 1 million in a old Greater Hobart. And then as it moves in, they'll go, right, I like this area and this area, so they'll expand it down, and they'll break it down even further into almost, all right, I'm looking for a house in this suburb between 300 and 400,000 or 600 and 800,000. So then by the time the inquiry spits through at the end, often that's like that person's spent 6 months on the market before they've even sent through their first inquiry.
And then we sell them something which is nowhere near where they thought.
Exactly.
So that worked.
Well, I mean, and then that goes back down to just as a quick one about the side relationships. I can't remember if I did it on the podcast, said it before, but my dad had the story about a person who didn't want to buy in Bridgewater, but dad had the perfect house for him.
Yeah, you've used this one before.
Exactly, yeah. So
go back to episode 1 if you want to hear
Go
the
back to
story.
episode 1.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Pat's
yeah.
got them all on dial.
Yeah,
He
but-
lies in bed and listens to him. He's like, just in case John brings up another story,
Yeah, well, look,
episode 1.
you guys think the stats are going through the roof. It's just me replaying them over and over and over. Just sit there at night, just listening.
And then again, yeah. So
I
then
find the soulful tones of John help me sleep at night.
Oh, nice.
maybe I could go into my phone voice.
You've gone from the Man in Black the other week, Johnny Cash, now you're Barry White.
So if you look on realestate.com.
Next time we do some video marketing, can you use that voice? Hey, I'm selling Dove Cord.
So, well,
Where were we?
So then, of course, once that inquiry's been made, well, then you know that they're actively looking, and they're quite potentially open to suggestions as well. So once they've reached out to the market, they've shifted from spending all that time researching, and now it's like, right, now they're probably going to be a lot more active. The internet's really powerful for that. Like you can look internationally. infinitely in any time of the day, right across the world, at any price bracket, at any property, and that's why it's exciting. It's just that, and that's just why it's changed the way that people purchase.
I don't think the internet's changed the world.
Exactly.
And it's only going to get better as well. Like I know realestate.com, and I know Sarah Bell, for instance, who we had a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, from Rita. Yeah,
they're both working on their AI side of things, or artificial intelligence, so that if you're a buyer at 10 or 11 o'clock at night and you send through an email request on their website, realestate.com's website, Sarah's bot can email. I won't call it a bot. Sorry, Sarah, when you're listening back.
Yeah, Rita.
She'll be able to actually send a response on behalf of the agent straight back to the client. So if they ask certain questions, she'll be able to read the email and send it back. So the beauty as well about the internet, like you said, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And although you can ask additional questions from the agent, we're now getting more technology to help the agent get you the information you need faster. So I think that's another advantage, is that you can become skilled up and educated and better equipped to buy your next place a lot faster because you can get the information a lot quicker.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about. 'Cause once they've got the information, you can have a much more engaging conversation. And then I suppose that's, we all know the internet really well. We can access everything. And then I suppose we've added the element of social media. So with that, the difference...
Can you run through a few social media platforms, just the names of them for us?
So Base Hook, Instagram,
Spam chat.
So you'd have an influencer on staff now that's promoting your properties for you, John? So
just full time.
No, well, I was looking at some stuff when I got your show notes come through, and I kind of looked up the future of marketing and where it will go, and this influencer culture is kind of really taking off. So do you guys think as real estate agents you're going to have to start wearing bikinis to open homes?
Well, I did dress up in that when we used to do the Running Man suit as a... back when we had that
Mr.
mascot.
Red or whatever it was.
Yeah, the Running Man. Yeah. I don't know. I'd be interested to see. I think the use of influencers, I don't know whether or not a full property product's sort of kind of the take on it. However, one of the changes in advertising, though, is that Wes mentioned again about the things about finding us, not us finding the properties. So you use the example of Netflix, Aaron, where it had the recommended for you.
Yep.
So that's sort of, I suppose, where the evolution of it is. Rather than us having to go through 1,000 different options, it's just too many to select from. So all the algorithms are trying to narrow it down so that it finds you what it thinks you want.
That's a really good example, John.
So, and then social media, the way that I suppose works for us is, we had a property in Moona that coincided with the 8th thing we talked about with video exclusively. We'd done a property video, thrown it up there as an upcoming feature. That got tagged by a numerous bunch of people, and then 3 people wanted to purchase the property. And that was very much social media worked in the video marketing, so you could get into detail. We'll talk about it a bit in a second. Word of mouth, so they were tagging each other, and they were sort of maybe looking for property at the time. And it was actually the people that bought it were tagged by a friend.
Yeah, cool.
So then, depending upon which one you use, again, I suppose Facebook's the biggest users at this point are, what are they, like sort of 40 to 50, 40 upwards, I suppose. I don't know, what's the difference in the...
40 to 50 people?
Yeah. I think, the age demographics. Yeah, because then I suppose you've got to choose which medium's going to be more effective to which demographic.
I reckon that's a whole other show.
Oh, man, yeah. I think for us at the moment, if we're looking to actually spend money, most of that would go into Facebook.
Well, I reckon we've got a show there because I listened to about 4 hours of people talking about Instagram and Facebook and advertising.
Oh, really?
Yeah, last week in Vegas. So we got this covered.
You got this? I'll let you take that one.
Well, at least I can get the name right to start off with.
You and me both, brother. So the social media platforms are just word of mouth on steroids.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's ads chasing you, there's sponsored ads, and then you can narrow it down to areas, so you can hyper focus it to 1 kilometre within that property's address. There's an enormous amount of ways you can invest that money into social media, but again, it's really about engaging those passive buyers and getting tagged by friends looking to say, come and check this out. At least that's the way I would take it. What about you, matey?
Yeah, I see Facebook as a way of trust. So you get sort of reassurance from friends and family that, hey, check this place out. It looks nice. It looks what you're after.
Yep.
And everyone believes family and friends more than they do real estate agents.
Yeah.
So, Look, we can put it out there, and if we can get people doing our job for us, then that's a fantastic effort.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's all good.
Yeah.
So I think the last one I wanted to cover off was specifically about video, because with that, I think the level of depth of storytelling you can engage with a video is vastly different from just a photo. So, I mean, we had one as example in Dysart where the property had so much detail to it that by the time the owner gave me the tour of the house, I wanted to buy it.
Yep.
So in that, then with the video, we actually interviewed the owner, and he told the story of his own property. And the purchasers, the way we found them is that they one found on the print first, the other one found it through the internet. Then they both watched the video and said, "We need this house." And that was at a time when nothing in that suburb was moving.
Well, what about the one we did together with the train house?
Oh,
How cool was that?
Yeah, that was fun. That was really fun.
So John had this listing that was kind of like a shack down on the coast of Tasmania somewhere down Woolwhoop. So it wasn't going to have lots and lots of buyers, but the amazing thing about the place was that it was 2 classic train.
Yeah, 2 original trams had been built into the house.
Yeah, so it was kind of this elevated off the first floor, which was brick, and then above it was these 2 trains that had been retrofitted with a bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, all of the things. It was amazing. And so then your storytelling for the actual video, you had your little train conductor's hat, and we went really in-depth into this person who's going to buy a house that's made out of a tram or a train.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to be a tram. He's going to be a tram or train lover. So that's where we're going to target that ad.
Yes. Yeah.
And we got really good feedback from that.
Well, I mean, that's a really good example of where if you've got I'm going to use the word unique, stuff it, but a property that's just
unique New York.
So it's not just a standard house. So you need to be able to tell a little bit more about it, because photos on the alone, you can look at that going, what the hell is that? And I mean, we get creative with our script as well, but I can't be bothered reading through it, 250 words of lines.
Bringing up scripts like obviously our text and stuff, that's exactly why I like video, because not everyone are readers. Some people are more visual, some people like to read, some people like to look at things. And I think by having photos, video and text on a property that you put up for sale, it doesn't mean that you're going to get thousands of views of the video, but at least the option's there in case someone doesn't want to read the 2-page essay I wrote about the property, or they haven't got time to flick through all the photos. They can watch the video while sitting on the couch at the same time watching Netflix, because that's what we all do these days. Yep. And then they can flick it off to their family member and say, hey, I just saw this. What do you reckon about this place?
Yeah, absolutely. And like on your social feed, that video automatically plays, but it's muted. So then you overlay it with captions. And a lot of the time people just be watching that video with the captions.
Like you're lying in bed and your partner's asleep. You don't want to wake her, but you're just like, oh, look at that.
Yeah, exactly. And you'd be more likely to just stay on that video for longer than just a photo that it would just, pass before you can even think about it.
I know this is like a supersized episode so far. What about 3D tours and stuff?
Ooh, yeah, I really like them.
So yeah.
Let's say that.
I guess we've talked past and present. This is kind of present to the future.
We've looked at all the ways in which we can capture where people can find the property. Now I can really talk about something that's really awesome. Yeah, I love this technology.
Yeah, so look, here at 414 Real Estate, through 414 Media House, we have what they call a Matterport camera. And what that effectively does is scans the house at 99% accuracy. And it's a bit like Google Maps. Like, when you use Street View, how you walk down the street, and I'm walking down the street of the desk here with my fingers, it's exactly that. You can walk through the house. So it allows you to really explore the home. But where I think the future will go as well with that is that we've played around with it here a little bit, virtual reality goggles. So then taking that model and inserting them into your headset so you can feel like you're walking around the house from anywhere in the world.
Yeah. I guess sometimes when I'm out, I'm shooting properties and I bring out this Matterport camera and people see it and they're just like, oh, what's this thing? I kind of describe it as
the future of real estate.
I don't use that voice as well. I just kind of explain it as it will scan the house, and people on the mainland or people from out of area can essentially come to an open home on their computer. So they can walk through the place, get a feel from it from all the different angles, rather than it be, I've set up the camera and taken a photo of the best angle.
That's what I really like about it, is that you know what you're getting into when you go to look at a house that's got a Matterport scan. Because and no offense to you as by any means, like with photos, you can stage a photo.
Oh, yeah. Well,
and to make the home look angle. Better.
Yep,
like you can take things out of the shot to make it look nice. With a Matterport scan, there's nowhere to hide.
It is what it is.
Yeah. And it really gives people a true sense of what the home really is before they commit to come look at it.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
what I really like about it is it sort of eliminates some time wasters that might look at it online and think, yes, this is it. Then they rock up and they're there for 2 minutes and they're like, nah, this is not what I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're then starting to get more genuine buyers, more genuine people that are truly interested in the home. It helps mainland buyers commit to either just buying straight off the internet or, even better, committing to flying down, because they're not worried about spending the money on the flights because they've already got a pretty good feeling inside about the house of what it is and how it works.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's where this sort of future with the scans and the models can really come into play, is that really helps paint that more realistic and better picture.
And again, it's another visual medium that for people who don't like reading,
And creates that
some of the-
transparency, I guess.
Yep.
Like agents are known for not necessarily, or there's this perception out there that agents will try to spin a lie or spin a story to get what we want, where this type of technology is helping to...
it's taking the wank out of real estate.
100%. Oh, yeah.
J-Mac quote.
I'm so glad they included that in the Mercury article. Yeah, and that really completes the picture, doesn't it? So we've got all these ways, and now you can expand to find people, and we're giving so much more information so that consumers can feel more comfortable about purchasing quicker.
And we need to give more information, because there's that
I'm
many
all for
ads
that.
in the marketplace these days about everything.
Yeah.
There's just that much stuff out there that you can buy now that we need to have more avenues to be able to promote properties, and we need to find creative ways to get to that.
And the challenge is too, especially in hot markets, is that people have more time to pick a television than they do their property. So and what I mean by that is you'll have one open home, you've got 30 minutes to scurry around, and then quickly, do you want to make a decision? Because that's all the time you got in a really hot market. So if we can develop these technologies and utilise them for buyers, especially, is that enables them to be able to feel much more confident in which is the product that they're purchasing. It's insane. It really comes down to people spend more time researching their TV than they have time to buy their home, and it just is what it is.
That's another Mac Attack truth bomb, and you've dropped the penny on me there. I was like, wow, that's really true. Like the other day, I was at Harvey Norman looking for a TV, and I was there for way longer than 30 minutes.
Yep.
And I still didn't. I was just like, oh man, so many options.
Yeah.
Do I want 3D? Do I want it to be bendy? Do I want it
To be bendy.
the little curved one?
Yeah, the curved ones. Yeah, Ultra HD, 4K, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm with you.
I guess as a callback to the past episode where we're sequeling at the moment, what you guys were saying was in the modern day, you can't really just have one package of this is how we're going to market your property. You're being flexible in your approach to, you go in, you appraise and say, look, this is how I think we're going to do it for you. And this is my plan of attack.
And in the modern day as well, I think real estate agents now are more marketers than they are agents to a degree. Before, we used to get somebody in a car and just drive around home after home after home, and then after you'd looked at 10 homes, you'd pick one of the 10 that we took you to and you'd buy it. Where these days, I think agencies, real estate agencies in particular, have become more like marketing agencies. Like our job now is to find the avenues to get your property out there and to promote it in its best light to get you the best outcome. So our jobs as well have slightly changed from what they used to be.
Yeah, whereas I suppose is just have a connection and work on negotiation exclusively. Our skill sets had to broadly develop in order to to adjust to the new marketplace. Yeah, and I think there was one last thought I had was
This is your third one last thought.
Yeah. Well, where I said so. Obviously, it's our job to try and design the best package. But like we discussed, if I sort of phrase it that if we're not using 100% of the marketing, marketing mediums available to us, I'm with my hands, I'm drawing a circle.
It's a very good circle.
Yeah.
I was impressed.
How can we guarantee we're extracting the 100% out of the property's value for you? Because we don't know where the buyer's going to come from. We just know they're going to come from somewhere from here. So if someone's I'll say the analogy is, look, if you give us all the tools, you've got all of us. But the second you take one away, you're tying one arm behind the back. If you take two away, you've got two arms behind the back. And then all of a sudden I'm hopping on one leg, and next thing I'm crawling on my knees just because I don't have all the resources available to me.
You're like the knight in the Monty Python Holy Grail. We'll call it a draw
Yeah,
then.
we'll call it a draw.
It's Amelia Flesh Wound.
And what a place to finish the show, I say.
Yeah, look, we've got a supersized episode. It's on steroids. I guess we could talk about this for hours, and we have already covered it, and we said we'd come back and have a chat about it. So
I think this one was worth going a little bit longer for, though, because there's a lot there.
Well, look, I think we could go for another hour if we wanted to. We could do it Joe Rogan style and just talk and talk and talk. But we'll wrap it up there because we do have other things to do. You've got properties to sell. I've got photos to edit, and we'll be back. Pat's a bit tired after his long haul flight, but we'll get him some more coffees from Agent Cooper, and we'll keep him alive for the rest of the day.
Awesome.
It's good to have you back, mate. Good to
mate.
get you back in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Cool. All right, gang. Catch you later.
Cheers, lads. Bye.
See ya.
And now for a legal disclaimer. You have been listening to The Property Pod, produced and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Real Estate and McGregor First National Propriety Limited.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek and use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, expressed or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.